Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode where I draw and then I talk about it. It's real fun. Great video. Why do you watch this? It's so boring. Oh, great. Okay, good start. I'm very tired. It's fine. Okay, so you may remember I did a video a couple of weeks ago where I did something similar. It was the It's a No-Brainer poster that I did. And I liked it so much that I turned it into a mini-series of weird organ things, I guess, and sayings. So I did a few more illustrations to make it into a full set. I did 4 in total. And yeah, I really like how they turned out. So I think like a lot of people, I always find that there's a huge difference between my style digitally and my style traditionally. I'm not sure which I prefer. They're both kind of very different, so much so that you wouldn't be able to tell that the same person did them both. So yeah, this was my attempt to kind of bridge the gap, as it were. So I did all of these drawings traditionally with some ink, because I love inking. And then I edited them heavily in Procreate. Now usually when I've done this kind of thing in the past, I've just edited a few tweaks here and there in Photoshop and the change has never been that extreme. But in this case, I thought I'd see what happens if I rely more heavily on digital while I'm painting. It was kind of strange while I was painting because I wasn't sure how much I'd be able to fix in Procreate. Because I'd never really edited a picture in Procreate before, obviously, because it's not an editing software, but I wanted to like go in and properly add all the details that I wanted very meticulously, which took hours, which is probably a mistake, but I did it and now I know what it's like, so I guess that's useful. But yeah, so the main thing I was wanting to get from the traditional point of view was the texture, because like I feel like my initial sketches all kind of turn out the same when I do traditional and when I do digital, but it's the colouring where everything changes. So I really like the texture that traditional stuff brings out, because you can't really, well, you probably can get it in Procreate, but I just haven't figured out how. Yeah, so I was trying to make life easier for myself by just using one colour of ink for each painting, and then I used 3-ish different tones of the same colour, and then I thought that would make it easier when I touch it up in Procreate, because I'll only have to use 3 or 4 different colours. So this is what I turned out. This is what the traditional prints look like when I scan them in. I haven't edited them at all. Obviously, as you can see, they're a bit dull. The contrast isn't great. So first thing I did when I took them into Procreate was adjust the brightness and contrast so that they're actually kind of the right colours. So then the whites were actually white, which was the main thing I was looking for. And then what I did is I erased any white bits that had gotten some paint on. So as you can see, while I was painting the eyeballs one, I didn't bother to mask out these little twirly things, these little decorations. Mainly because when I did that with the brain poster that I did in the other video, it kind of ripped the paper and it made the wrong texture that was kind of annoying to fix in Procreate. But yeah, I found this easier. So I was just erasing all of the highlights and all of the stuff that I actually wanted to keep white. This was probably the easiest bit of all the touch-ups because it's just erasing one colour. The rest I kind of had to blend with the colours I already had, which was a lot more difficult, but I'll get into that later. I liked how it was turning out. I was on a roll. So once I'd done the whites, I moved on to the darkest colour, in this case purple, and I used the dry inking brush to kind of fill in the blanks, because when I adjusted the tone, some of the darkest colour had gone a bit too transparent, so I wanted to bring that back, so I just kind of faded it into what was already there. It worked really well, I have to say. After I did that, I went round the actual background colour, and I kind of faded from a slightly darker colour inwards. As you can see, it's kind of dark around the edges of the circle. That took a lot of work. I had to use a combination of a lot of things to do that. I'm not sure I could explain it all step by step. I'll have to do a completely separate video on that. But yeah, it was good. And then I added this kind of sepia tone. It was just a background, and then I put the whole poster on a multiply layer. And then I put another sepia tone on top, which I then erased to make like the really highlighted highlights. And that's how I got the end result, and it was good. I had to adjust the layers a lot, adjust the opacity, but eventually I got there, and I like how it turned out. So I proceeded to do the same thing with all of the posters. As you can see, I'm erasing all of the white bits that I couldn't be asked to do in the painting section, in the painting portion of this video. So just fixing past mistakes, as always. That's just a whole part of my process now. I make one mistake at the beginning, and then the rest of the painting I just try to undo it. I'm sorry for the two little bee doodles in the side of this particular shot. Hannah wanted a bee tattoo, so I doodled it, and then she doodled one, and then I forgot to erase it because I forgot it was recording. So my bad. And then I did the same with this. I went around with a slightly darker tone around the outside of the circle thing. And then because I wanted to look like the teeth were in water on this one, I kind of had to add a few different tones and lower opacity layers, but it didn't quite work as well as I wanted it to, but it was still fine. Yeah, and then I added the sepia tones and erased what I needed to. Once again, I'm erasing the highlights. This was quite difficult to do on the rose in particular, just because it doesn't have like a clear outline of where the shading needs to go. On the other two flowers it was a lot easier. So yeah, it was kind of a bit more tricky to figure this one out, but I think I got it. It wasn't too bad. I didn't have to erase all that much on this one, mainly because it's such a light colour. I had to add more dark tones in than I had to erase, which was not as easy, because erasing is a lot easier because you're just taking colour off, but putting colour on you have to match it and all that. To make the colours match when I did go in with a dark colour, I think I just forgot to ink this in the traditional one because I'm dumb. So I had to do all of that in post. And the way I got the colour to match the existing dark colour is I colour dropped like the main colour in it, and then I upped the noise on that particular layer so it kind of matched the same texture, which kind of worked. You could still tell that it was slightly different than the lines already added, but once I added all the sepia tones and all the final effects, it's not really noticeable. Especially from a distance, and I don't think anyone's going to be zooming in that much. So, you know, it kind of worked. As you can see, there's a lot of pencil lines on this one that I forgot to erase again because I'm dumb. So I had to kind of blend the colours over it a little bit, which was a difficult part, but it worked. Now I'm just adding some of the mid-tones onto the heart. Yeah, so I'm just adding some mid-tones, which I then blended out either with the smudge tool on like a really high noise brush, or I just did it by hand with the dry inking brush and then added some blur. It was a whole mess. Yeah, and then I added all the sepia tones and the final adjustments, and there we go. So here's what it looked like before, and there's what it looked like after, which I feel looked pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. Here's the teeth one. The text was particularly rocky on this one just because I couldn't get it. I'm not very good at outlining text in traditional media, apparently. And here we go. Here's the last one. I changed some of the wording on that one as well, so that went and that undergone a big change. So these are all the posters at the end, and they're all available now on my shop, link in the description, including the brown one from the other video. I'm really proud how these turned out. They look good. I think it was pretty successful the way that I used traditional and digital media together. The only drawback I would say with this technique... Shut up! Yeah, the only drawback with this technique is that it took fucking hours. So I think next time I'll find a way to streamline it, or just try not to mess up so much when I do the traditional stuff. You know, either way works, but yeah, it would work pretty cool. I like how they turned out, link in the description, all that jazz. Let me know which one's your favourite, maybe. Yeah, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye!